Good morning, and greetings again from North Carolina. Welcome back to Pastor's Morning Walk. It seemed best this morning to have a special edition in regard to what happened last night at the PCA General Assembly, that they approved a statement of racial egalitarianism, which opposed any theological or political doctrine that posits a superiority of race or ethnic identity based on immutable characteristics. You can go read the statement yourself. I've reposted it on X. And there will be time to sit down and write and respond more directly. But I just want to give some basic points to explain why this is a major problem. The first is that it condemns common sense. It is a matter of common sense that some races are different in ways that are better or worse. Indeed, that all races are different, and at least some of those differences can be properly classed as better or worse, superior or inferior. And we cannot reduce all the distinctions to merely adventitious or merely cultural issues, as if they had nothing to do with immutable or natural or genetic characteristics. Some have reduced the argument to absurdity and talked about how the statement condemns anyone who says that East Africans are better at running. Well, that's actually a reasonable argument to make, because that is a superiority born of immutable characteristics. They simply are, by their very nature, better at running, at least in certain races. So that's a good example, but I think the more urgent issue, and the issue people will get in trouble for under this statement, is by insisting in differences like intelligence. But to the person with common sense, this is more obvious even than athletic ability. Because in intelligence, it's very clear that whites are superior to blacks. I say this knowing well that this is where the rub lies. This is the most offensive part of the common sense that they're condemning, but it is still common sense. We know this here in the South. Most of us went to school with blacks. We saw the enormous differences in their intellectual performance. Those who work with them know this. This is not demeaning them. This is not being unkind to them. It's simply recognizing facts that God made us different. That in providence He separated our races and gave to the different races blessings that some others do not have. To assert that is simply common sense. It's simply observing how God arranged the world to be. And this statement is condemning mere noticing of common sense. It's condemning men who have their eyes open and who are honest about differences. The ramifications of this are major. They are setting Christianity against observing, against common sense, against science, against reason. God never does that. The Scripture and nature are not opposed. But in opposing them, these men are bringing shame upon the Christian faith, and as well putting up enormous barriers to those who would believe. So it condemns common sense. It also condemns the testimony of our forefathers, and would condemn them if they were still alive. So, Robert Dabney, for example, who insisted, because of these obvious common sense, observable differences between whites and blacks, that there has to be a reasonable dealing regarding leadership, ruling in the Church of Christ. That because it's not fitting for the weak to rule the strong, that it's not fitting for blacks to rule over white Christians in the church. This is very offensive to our modern age, but it is not only an exercise of common sense, it's one that was done by a respectable, beloved theologian of American Presbyterianism. And so he has to be condemned, and in various online discussions, these men have confirmed that. Yes, they would condemn these men for their views. So it condemns our fathers. Sadly, these same men who are pushing these resolutions love to celebrate these fathers and to borrow some of their glory. But Christ condemned this in Matthew 23, those who would garnish the sepulchres of the righteous while they show themselves to be the children of those who killed them. Besides condemning common sense and our fathers, it condemns our people. This is perhaps the saddest thing of all. Anyone, again, with eyes can see that white men are hated in this world. And a large part of the hatred is envy at their obvious natural blessings, at their intelligence, at their drive, at their evident virtues that they've shown in their entire history, especially in certain times and places, for example, in the Roman Empire or in the British Empire. Even today, Americans, for better or for worse, rule the globe. This envy can't stand these things, and it wants to destroy white men. And there are all sorts of efforts to destroy us, to displace us. The opening up of our borders to allow countless foreigners to come in, the integration of our school systems so that our children are continually subject to non-white degeneracy, on and on. These efforts to destroy our people, this statement puts wind in the sails of our murderers. This is very offensive. It is essential to standing up and fighting those who would destroy us, to recognize with humble thankfulness our God-given privileges. Yes, even immutable characteristics of our race, which set us apart from others. Let's connect it to religious things. The white race is the race that has conquered the world. And to argue that this was not because of, at least in part, their immutable characteristics is foolish. But they did it not only with a political end, but religious. When, for example, the British Empire conquered the world, it brought Christianity with it. The 19th century foreign missions movement is inseparable from 19th century colonization. The white race, more than any other, indeed, in a certain sense, alone, have been the evangelists of the whole globe. Even today, the conference circuit that goes throughout nations is filled with white speakers. It is white men who have started and run the great seminaries and publishing houses that promote the Christian religion. This statement requires us to deny all of that, even to be ashamed of it, and indeed to be condemned by ecclesiastical power for recognizing it, for being thankful for it, and for laboring to defend it. But if we do not defend the unique blessings of the white race, to put it another way, of historic Christendom, then I fear what will happen to the faith. If the white man is destroyed, or he's made to cower so much that he is effectively useless, then what will happen for the gospel? Who will take up our mantle and evangelize the world? I see no answers forthcoming. So So the consequences of this statement are very great, both for the existence of our people and for the whole globe, who depends, both temporally and in a sense spiritually, upon our unique, even immutable characteristics. Another bad thing about this is not just that it condemns those three things, but that it performs for the world. This is the work of men clearly seeking the world's applause. It is very popular to intone against racism, to assert that there is great evil in ascribing superiority and inferiority. There is almost no greater slur that can be fixed upon a man than white supremacist. And in fixing that, they are courting the favor of the ungodly world, which has no compunction about using such terms in order to demean and destroy sincere, godly, white Christians. They are using leftist tactics to bring favor to themselves in a worldly way. They forget the question of James 4:4. Do ye not know that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? And then it leads to the persecution of the godly. It is, in the church, likely to be the most godly, sincere, pious, virtuous people who are filled with natural affection for their own people, who humbly recognize its blessings, want to preserve them, love the fact that God has made them who they are, and are happy to preserve that. And these very people are now going to be persecuted in the churches. This statement is well crafted to be used to run sensible people out of the churches. And this brings us to a necessary application. What are you going to do, sensible white Christian man, now that you've been condemned by the ARP, by the RPCNA, by the PCA? What will you do? Well, you have to stand up and say no. You have to fight. Now, I don't say that with much hope that you're going to win in the present churches. I've tried and had to go. It was evident, and these statements make it evident, that sensible, race realist Christians are simply not welcome in these churches. I can't say in advance that you might not have some victory. Perhaps, as in a case I just heard of recently, your local church, your pastor, your elders will stand with you, and at least you'll have their support. And if you have to be kicked out of the church, they will be kicked out with you. But you have to fight one way or another. This is a matter of the existence of our people. We must oppose it with all our might. Now, realistically, when you do that, you will be forced out. I say that from personal experience and from hearing the experience of many others. This is very sad. The idea that we, by necessity, have to abandon these large denominations, relatively so, constructed by years of effort of faithful men of God in the past, that we have to abandon them to their liberal corruptors, is very sad. But I don't see another way. I encourage you, if you think there's another way, to try. But here's the warning. I see men who put on the appearance of trying, and yet their labors against this egalitarian rot in the church are so weak, so quiet, that they seem completely ineffectual to change anything. This is a wound that cannot be healed slightly. It's not going to be healed by keeping your head down, by not rocking the boat. Now is a time to fight. If you think that this cause will succeed by just quiet faithfulness, you're wrong. The enemies have made that clear. They will not allow you to be quiet. Good morning. There is a war on, and you have to take sides. You have to fight for what is right and true. It may conclude with your expulsion from the church. It likely will. But the alternative should be unthinkable to you, that you would be quiet in a matter of such great importance, and even a matter of the existence of our own people. So, these are serious things, but I encourage you to take them seriously. May the Lord bless you and bless the churches.